Hey YouTube, Fiasco here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about all this Nuclear Knight, Amazing Atheist, Tomerman, Origin, everybody's sticking their fingers in on this, including me. I've done it myself. I've been in the comments section on Origin's video. I was at the blog TV that everybody keeps talking about, where blah 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 and yada yada yada. The thing is, over this whole pornography thing, and this is something that I've said to Nuclear Knight in comments, is that the whole pornography thing is really a side issue to what the real problem is. The real problem really has a whole lot less to do with pornography or prostitution, and a whole lot more to do with the idea of gender roles that we've basically had in society for thousands of years. See, Nuke's ultimate goal, or the ultimate goal of feminists in general, and in this case I mean, you know, the typical feminists, the ones who want equality, not the ones who are necessarily like going on some kind of rampage against this or that cause. The overall goal of feminists is equality between the genders. The thing is that, and Nuke wants to end, as she puts it, male supremacy, which I'm not opposed to at all whatsoever. But see, the thing is that these gender roles have been so imbued into us that giving them up or changing society is going to require that we completely rehash the way we think about things. Just an example of the gender roles that don't necessarily mesh with reality. Ladies, I know that really deep down inside, you are just as sexual and horny as men, but the societal role of women is or the traditional role of women is that you're proper and don't get involved in all of this sexual stuff, which incidentally to me makes it seem like Nuke is trying to, Nuke's crusade against pornography is reinforcing that as opposed to liberating us from that mentality. By the same token, men deep down inside are just as emotional as women, but the gender role that society has put on us is that we don't express that in the same way that women are, albeit this is changing, but in the same way that women are reluctant to express their sexuality. You know, women have to be very careful about how they go about expressing their sexuality, otherwise they're a slut or they're a whore or whatever, and frankly I think it's all garbage. So what's the solution then? The solution, I think, is to start trying to break down some of these gender roles and start coaxing them out of our way of thinking. For instance, you know, women could feel more open about expressing themselves sexually, and this is already occurring, and I think this is a step in the right direction, that women embrace their sexuality, and you know, if you want to get laid, and don't worry about whether or not somebody's throwing around the slut or the whore or whatever. And the thing about it that's really fucked up is that it's not men necessarily that are throwing this around. It's women that are throwing it at other women just as much as any man will. Meanwhile, at the same time, men need to start embracing their emotions or owning them and living them in a way. But the thing about that, and this is something that women need to be aware of, is that men suppress their emotions so much, or they build such a wall up around them, that once they start to bring these walls down, these you know, emotions are very vulnerable. The man is in this state of having just as fragile of an ego and as low of a self-esteem as a lot of women. If you want to keep a man doing this, if a man begins to bring down these walls and embrace these emotions, one thing women have to keep in mind is that they shouldn't be trying to emasculate him at every turn, because you know you like to do it. An example, though, of starting to change the way we think about gender roles. Let me use ZJMTV as an example, only because his nuts are so fucking huge to put himself out there as himself, doing his thing. If you've seen his blog TVs, you know he doesn't moderate at all. He just gets on there and he does his thing, and the trolls are there and they're throwing out all kinds of vile, abusive shit, and it doesn't seem to faze him in the slightest. And there's a reason that I am using him here specifically. I don't know if he is planning on getting gender reassignment done in the future, or if he just enjoys wearing women's clothing, but this is something that I wanted to focus on, is that when we think of ZJ, even those of us who are progressive about the whole thing, those of us who, you know, in our own minds are, oh, look at how progressive and tolerant and accepting we are of this man wearing women's clothing. Right there, right in that phrase, right there, man wearing women's clothing, we have already set up these gender roles in our own mind. We've already succumbed to the gender roles in our own mind. You know, why can't it just be a man wearing clothing? Who cares if this is clothing that was traditionally males or traditionally female clothing? These are gender roles that have been thrown about basically as you know, a religious control mechanism as much as anything else, and for free thinkers to be still succumbing to these gender roles just because it's such a huge part of our society is I think part of the reason why we're having, you know, a lot of these issues. You know, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great thing that even in the context of having these gender roles and having these identities, separate identities of masculine and feminine, that being tolerant and accepting of, you know, somebody who is, you know, a male by genitalia wearing women's clothing, I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. I just don't think that continuing to maintain that gender separation paradigm is going to bring about any of the kind of forward-thinking change in society that Nuclear Knight and other feminists are looking for. Why do we have to say that emotions are a feminine trait? Why can't they just be a human trait? Why does sexuality have to be a masculine trait, or you know, like a horniness or a sexual overdrive? Why does this have to be a masculine trait and just can't be a human trait the way it really is? I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as an idea and see what you guys think about it. See if you can identify other places in life where you're already starting to set up these, or where you're already succumbing to this gender separation paradigm, and perhaps coax your mind into a way where you start to remove some of these roles that we've been living under for 5,000 years, and we are now beginning to decide in general really aren't beneficial to society or individuals. Rate, comment, maybe leave a video response, subscribe. Cellifies42. Breathe and stay hydrated.